Come on! Yo, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the world, I am George Massey, today talking about why the new Batman and Harley Quinn animated movie, upcoming, is likely to suck balls.
God help us.
Now, the reason why I am not getting my hopes up for this movie is because it is directed by the same guy who directed The Killing Joke. Now, The Killing Joke, which comes from Alan Moore's graphic novel masterpiece, was finally converted into an animated, R-rated movie that was fucking terrible.
Tell me what I'm doing here. You're going mad.
To be perfectly honest, I didn't sit through the whole film. I wanted to, I was excited about it, I was looking forward to it, and I actually stayed away from trailers. I've read The Killing Joke quite a few times, and I love the Batman animated series, the original one. And so this one I thought, well, you put those two together, you have magic. But instead, everybody hated the first half an hour of The Killing Joke. Not even like hardcore Batman fans liked it. They still said, what the hell is this? This is garbage. This is just surplus additional time wasted to convert a short story into a feature-length film to try and get more revenue, more money. And it showed. The other thing about The Killing Joke movie is that the animation is fucking terrible. I swear to God, I was looking at that movie thinking, this is one of the worst looking films I've ever seen. It's like a direct throwback to when flash animations were first becoming popular on the internet. Flash animations being things that kids were doing in their bedrooms when they were discovering that they could animate on their computers and put it online for other people to see. And some of it was interesting, but predominantly it was mediocre. This movie looks like early Flash animations. It looks awful. There's no depth. The movement is completely off. There's no weight to it. They have CGI cars at the beginning of the film that literally move like cardboard boxes on wheels. They have no weight at all. And surely this comes down to the director. The director is Chinese American, and before anyone starts knocking me down for saying something potentially racist, what I'm saying isn't racist, but the #1 Batman animated series episodes, including the animated movie Mask of the Phantasm from the same series, the same time period, were animated in Japan.
Your angel of death awaits.
The Phantasm.
I want you.
They were Japanese animated because back then it was well known that the best animators in the world were Japanese. So the Americans would go over there when they had the money and they would get the Japanese to animate for them. And I mean, they literally would go over there. In the original The Real Ghostbusters, the American directors would fly over to Tokyo and sit there with the Japanese animators and tell a translator what they wanted, and then the American would go back to America, and within about 6 months he'd have to fly back to Tokyo, collect all of the film stock, right, and then fly back over to America to get a finished episode of The Real Ghostbusters. And this was happening all the time with all the Americans' kids' cartoons. They were making the best one, the most expensive ones were being animated in Japan. And if they couldn't afford the Japanese for the whole episodes, oftentimes they would just pay the Japanese to animate the intro to their cartoons, and then they would send the actual animation job to Korea, because the Koreans were cheaper than the Japanese.
Once the dialogue has been recorded, edited and timed, the sound tapes, storyboards, backgrounds and character designs are sent out to animation studios in Japan. At the start of each filming session, the director, Will Mineo, flies from Los Angeles to Tokyo to discuss the style and the organisation of the series with the Japanese team responsible for making and shooting the animation cells.
In terms of production facilities, the Japanese, I think, are the best in the world. They're the most experienced studio in the world in handling these characters. A lot of what happens between the Japanese director and me is that we've had to establish a working relationship. For him to do his job, I have to allow him a certain amount of leeway. For instance, when he's going over the show, if he sees something just doesn't work in the context of actually filming it, and he'd be much more aware of the minutiae of the show than I am, then I need to have somebody I can trust enough to give the freedom to make those changes with very little discussion.
The fact of the matter is that the people at Warner Brothers who worked on Batman the Animated Series, they know how good the animation is in some of the animated series. Certain episodes like Clayface, the writers, the producers, the staff of that show have said this was some of the most amazing and outstanding animation that we had ever seen come out of a Warner Brothers studio. They knew how impressive the work they were receiving from Japan was.
The thing that people remember the most about our version of Clayface was just the amazing visuals that we were able to pull off. We were amazingly fortunate that we got the great Japanese animation studio TMS, because they just really went to town on all the shape-shifting stuff.
So they know it. So why not get somebody who knows their shit? Now, they don't have to be Japanese. They can be Chinese. They can be American, so long as they know what they're doing. But under these circumstances, the movement, the grading, the colour, everything is wrong. So this particular director, he just doesn't know what he's doing. Give it to me. I'm not Japanese. I will do it better. I will animate this Batman Harley Quinn movie. I would love to have directed the Killing Joke movie. I guarantee you the movement and the animation would have been better than what they put on the silver screen. A movie that somehow found its way into theatres, God knows how. It doesn't even look as good as children's television from the early 90s. That being said, this movie, Batman and Harley Quinn, does have staff, writers from the original animated series. That's good, but let's get one thing clear. Even though it's new, what was it that the hardcore Batman fans hated about the movie The Killing Joke? They hated all of the stuff that was new. They were like, the stuff that was from the graphic novel was quite good, but everything that was new and by this director was horrible, even for hardcore fans. So this new movie is all new. It's all a new story, and it's all directed by this guy. Why didn't somebody at that studio say, wait a minute, you're giving it to that guy who made that Batman movie that almost everybody hated, that comic fans hated, and hardcore Batman fans were like, well, it's kind of okay, but it sucks, really. Like, it's really not what it should have been by any stretch. So anyway, let's get one thing clear. I hope that the makers of this film and the director of this film, I hope they prove me wrong. I hope they make something that stands up and is as good as the best of the animated series. I hope that I can put it next to episodes and stories like Two-Face or Clayface, or the episode where Robin gets introduced. All of those beautifully animated, wonderfully written episodes with their amazing soundtracks. I hope this modern movie is a worthy addition to that animated Batman history. So prove me wrong, make a masterpiece. But in terms of my actual expectation, my expectation for this movie is low.
You've had yours.
Hit subscribe if you like this video, and if you didn't like this video, then what's wrong with you? Because it's so good, it was so amazing, it was so much fun, it was definitely the best video you've ever seen. For sure, for sure. See ya.